Hey guys, welcome back to another garden tour. It's Sunday, July 21st. We're closing in on the end of July. We've had another week of good weather. Everything's growing really well. Normally this time of the year I find you can start to identify what's not going to work, what plants are just not going to make it in the time left in the growing season. So as well as giving you a quick tour, we'll go through some of the plants that for whatever reason just didn't seem to take off this year. All right, let's have a quick look. So finally did get a chance to finish the bed on the end. I was originally going to plant more blueberries here, but local nursery didn't have any and just wanted to get it done. So put a bunch of compost in the ground, well-rotted manure, and picked up 2 cherry plants. Again, a really low maintenance bed, just like the blueberry bed on the other side. And in, I think, about 2 years, we should be getting some cherries. So that'll be good. Now in this first bed, the beets that I transplanted are doing really well. Again, we should be able to harvest them shortly. Some of them are a little further along than others. But again, beets, very resilient plant, and should have a good harvest. So beets doing well, lettuce is doing well. I do have to plant more lettuces next year. A lot of my seeds didn't germinate, so next year new lettuce seeds and many more lettuces. Pepper plant's doing well, and the leftover butternut squash and spaghetti squash plants are starting to vine out. We may get a couple squash on these plants, but they're quite a bit behind from the other ones. Tomatoes doing well. I did spend a couple hours in the garden yesterday tying everything up and weeding a little bit, but tomatoes are rolling right along. Beefsteaks are coming, and trusses of cherry tomatoes are coming. So I would say maybe another couple weeks we will have tons and tons of tomatoes. Brussels sprouts doing well. Again, don't expect anything from these plants until probably about September. They do take a while to actually produce anything. However, all of the broccoli plants do have broccolis either beginning to form or are almost ready to harvest. One on the end there should be ready to harvest shortly. Now in the pea bed, this has been an exceptional year for peas. You can see that on the right hand side, all the edible pod peas, the Oregon Giant in the end there, and the sugar snap peas in front, all have tons of peas set, and we've been taking them for the past week. Every other day we've been out here harvesting peas. So I'll probably come in here later on today and do a major harvest of the peas that are ready, and then we'll leave the plants for a second harvest in another couple weeks. The regular peas, pods are forming, just waiting for the actual peas to start. Maybe another couple weeks we'll do a big harvest of the regular peas. Now, in the category of plants that did not do so well this year, climbing beans are quite a bit delayed. They are getting there, and we probably will have a harvest this year, but they are at least 2 to 3 weeks behind where they were last year. Last year we were already harvesting at this time, but they'll get there. Not quite, not a write-off yet, but just a little bit delayed. Now the onion bed doing okay. They're all starting to catch up a little bit. I was a little bit concerned earlier in the season. All the tips of the onion leaves were turning yellow, but they seem to have pulled through whatever that was, and now they look quite healthy. I did go through this bed last weekend and weeded it pretty heavily. I always find that whenever I do weed the onion beds, a couple of the onions end up dying, and that's what happened this time, but the majority of them survived, and they're looking pretty good. Now, speaking of plants that didn't work, the celery plants, I've tried, this will be the third year that I've tried celery plants, both from seeds and plants that we purchased at the nursery, and they never seem to grow. I don't know what it is. These plants that we purchased at the beginning of the year have basically just sat here and done nothing, haven't really grown or put on any appreciable weight. So I think I'm gonna call it quits for celery in this region. And for some reason, the carrot plants have just not done anything. This is about the biggest plant that I have. Last year, the carrot bed was just loaded with greenery. This year, for some reason, nothing seems to be growing very, very successfully. So, no more celery, and I think I'm going to try a different variety of carrots next year. Kale, Swiss chard, those always seem to do well. We've been, again, trimming the leaves probably every 4 or 5 days. Take a whole bunch, fry it up, and freeze it. Cauliflower, again, looking all right. It's another one of the trickier crops, but it's really expensive, so we keep trying to grow it. We'll see what happens. Take a closer look at the strawberry bed. These plants have been quite productive, as you can see. We've got strawberries set all over the place, flowers, with more still to come. Again, when planted with this weed guard down, we very, very rarely actually have to come and weed the plants. They will eventually spread out enough leaves that they pretty much cover the entire area. We do come in maybe once every week and snip out the runners. You can see a little one forming there. It's really straightforward. Just nip them off. Forces the plant to focus its energy on producing berries. There's another runner right there, a little bit thicker. You can come in with cutters or just nip them off like that. I do have one runner planted in the corner because one of the plants didn't survive the transplant. You can see I have an empty opening there. So eventually when this plant takes root, I will snip it off the mother plant and then just dig it out and transplant it there. I did a similar thing with this other spot right here. You can see that one there. Snipped it off the mother plant and it's bounced right back. It was the leaves are a little droopy to begin with, but it's taken root and hopefully will begin to produce berries this year. It did have one beginning berry stalk, berry stem coming out, but when you transplant them, I find that the shock of the transplant will usually cause the berries to wilt, and they just aren't worth it. So I snip them off, let the plant reestablish, and then it will produce large and healthy berries. But so far so good. Next year what I'll do is I'll probably allow the runners to take root. I'll root them in pots, and then I will have clones to start a new bed, a new strawberry bed. And then when these plants stop producing berries, I'll already have another bed ready to go. So it'll just be a constant rotation of strawberry plants. And further down the bed we have those 6 pepper plants that survived the frost. They seem to be catching up. They'll probably end up producing a few small peppers. The plants are quite stunted, so the fruit size usually reflects the plant size. Cabbages, lots of green, no heads of cabbage yet, but again, we're still pretty early in this. Well, we still have lots of time for them to produce. More broccoli plants and some Savoy cabbages on the end. Again, all doing very well. Should start producing in the next couple weeks. Our spaghetti squash plant, as expected, is beginning to take over. The butternuts are not quite as vigorous this year. Not exactly sure why, but they are starting to vine out. So we should get a few butternuts. Hopefully we get lots and lots of spaghetti squash. Now we're training these plants. What we do is we put rocks around the base where we want the plants to go. Again, the spaghetti squash, you do have to watch, because they throw down roots at each one of their nodes, so they do have to be in contact with the ground for them to do their best. But what we normally do, if I can walk around here, we train them so that they go outside the bed, and then they will travel onto our lawn and root in the lawn. Doesn't really bother us. Again, may kill some of the grass, but it'll bounce back. And you can see there is one squash starting. There's no rain planned, so we should have some successful pollination. Pickling cucumbers is starting to vine out and set a whole bunch of fruit. I don't know if we are ahead or behind on cucumbers. My success rate with cucumbers has been kind of mixed, but I think we're a little bit behind. That's all right though. We still have a little bit to go. And then the slicing cucumbers, again, poking through the trellis, so hopefully we start seeing some fruit in the next few weeks. Watermelon plants doing quite poorly, but they always do poorly. Not really surprised at that. The reason I keep trying with watermelon plants is the fruit is really good, and they are quite expensive. So if I do get one, then it will be worth the trouble, hopefully. But I don't expect to get any sizable fruit this year. I tried to start them a little bit earlier inside, but they really don't like being started in small pots. So we'll see what we get. And one plant that is also doing quite poorly this year are the zucchinis. I don't quite understand why, but they are just now getting started, starting to put flowers out. But again, by this time last year, we were already drowning in the number of zucchinis that 3 plants would have been producing. So hopefully they catch up, and hopefully we just get a later harvest. And the blueberry plant's doing well. The fruit is set, starting to turn blue on the Polaris variety. I believe these are Polaris. And still look like the fruit has quite a ways to go on the Chippewa variety. Alright, that's it for another week. Hopefully later on today we'll be doing a big harvest of edible pod peas, and we should be harvesting quite a bit of produce throughout the week, so I will be recording that and show you everything we've harvested next week. Until then, see you later.